Hello, everybody. My name is Chiara Marrapodi. I'm your host for Coffee with the Coaches, and I have Michael here with me today, and we're going to be talking about something I find quite interesting: aspirations versus dreams. And so, when we think about aspirations, we can see that they're quite similar to what we might dream for. Dreams are a part of our reality because often we're living a dream. And how do we know what is real and what's dream? And how do we bring our dreams into this space that we're in? In other words, change. So, Michael, when we talk about aspirations versus dreams, what comes to mind for you?
The big thing that comes to me is, for lack of my fundamental way of looking at it is dreams are the overarching, they are the umbrella. Okay. They are the umbrella. They are much less definable, um, significantly harder to really get a good grasp on. They are the things that we want. Whereas aspirations, or another way of looking at that is goals, are measurable. They are finite. They have, I can say I want to lose X number of pounds by this date. Okay. That is a goal. Okay. Now, my dream may be to live a healthier lifestyle and be more fit. Okay, those are two completely different things. Those are two
Absolutely, yeah.
two and as important as you and I have agreed that intention is, that those two things are manifestly different.
Yes. And I love the language that you're using because it all ties together. Aspirations are, for me, something like you said is kind of concrete. We're able to see it. We are able to touch the paper that we've written it on. It's not something abstract. And because of that, we've brought it from an abstract to a concrete. It now appears that it could be something that could become real. In other words, as you said, could be manifested into this reality. Whereas a dream, as you say, I agree with you, it's an overarching place where we are thinking about, we're imagining, we're using more than language. It's the richness of the subconscious mind to be able to think in pictures, think in feelings, think in that which is not substantial in this place that we call physical reality. And yet, it makes the time travel of going into the dreamland such a beautiful thing. And there is a balance here because there is a difference between fantasy and something that is so far beyond the ability of bringing into this place where we are, the tangible, and linking that to aspirations or goals that are actually we're able to bring into fruition. And from my perspective, I think that there is a way to break down that dream so it doesn't become a fantasy that's unattainable, so that we are able to bit by bit create the space. Because what we've created is we've mentally time traveled, creating that space in our mind. And it's a space, again, that's a rich tapestry of all the intangible, the feelings, and, the pictures and the imagery. And to be able to bring that now into a form that we can actually work with. And that's the key where
Yes.
we coaches come in, where a coach that is competent, that is working continuously on their self-development, because we're always developing until our last breath. Well, at least I hope I'm developing until my last breath. That is my
Mhm.
intent. So I can be the best that I can for myself and others around me and to be of service. So that's where we come in to allow us to become more specific and not just the fantasy of it, but to really bring specificity in a competent way that's efficient to then bring the or bridge the gap, create a bridge from the dreamland into this place that we are
Mhm.
enjoying a physical reality and experience. So, this is such a wonderful discussion because I've often thought about this and I've thought about what does it actually mean? And this is but an introduction, a beginning of touching the surface of
Mhm.
how us as coaches can be of service to our clients in this way from a grounded space.
Mhm. I love, I love to start any discussion that I have with my clients can start in any number of ways, depending on the topic. But one of the ways that I love to start this topic is to is to approach this with maybe some more metaphorical language.
Mhm.
And do you mind if I share just a couple of
Please, this
examples
is
that I
a
have
space.
when I do an aspirations versus dreams session with a client? Aspirations are the seed that we plant with intention. We nurture it by our actions and our perseverance, while dreams are the flowers that bloom from those aspirations, embodying the beauty of your journey.
That's beautiful, Michael.
And that's
And
that's one of five. And another one, I describe aspirations as the roadmaps that we create to guide us to our dreams, reminding us of the purpose behind our actions and the vision we strive to fulfill. You know, dreams are the stars that light up our sky, while aspirations are the constellations we connect to form a meaningful path toward reaching those dreams. Yeah, they're all, I've, you know, and I'll admit it, I got a little help from the AI, but
do you know what I love about what you're saying is exactly what we're discussing. You're creating language around the imagery, but also creating an imagery that has a scaffolding. And so the scaffolding is who we are as coaches. We are the scaffolding. So this is where you are, this is where you want to go. This is your overarching big dream. And how are we going to make this a reality without without bringing in the fantasy that will then create disappointment. But there was something else that came up to me when you were sharing, and that was the beliefs. How, we could dream big, but if internally we have certain belief systems and certain self-concepts and images of ourselves that are in the way, they are barriers to be able to bring this into a space where we can create those goals step by step. Because what people want to do, that I've noticed in my practice, is here's my big dream, I just want to make it happen. But it doesn't work that way, and often it's not a linear journey. It is a journey of learning and transformation along the way. And then what happens? That big dream begins to change because the fantasy drops off, and it's like, okay, we have realistic goals, we have realistic
well, we have.
of the imagery, please.
Yes, and we have these aspirations, okay, that fuel us and drive us forward. Okay, the aspirations are the nuts and bolts, but that you're right, that scaffolding, that structure empowers us to overcome the challenges and setbacks on the way because we're going to have them. Okay, and for some of us, our biggest challenge and setback can simply be self-doubt, can be negative self-talk,
Ourselves.
which I often say, if there is a creature in the universe, and I'm not saying there is or there isn't. I have a belief, you
Yeah.
have a belief, we're all welcome to it. I'm not saying there is a creature known as the devil in the universe, but if there is one, this is how he works. Someone plants an idea of self-doubt in us, and then we take up the task of watering it, and it grows. And we start repeating the mantra that was put into us by someone else.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm sorry. But if there's a devil, this is one of his best tricks. Getting us to pick up the mantra that somebody else planted in us. And negative self-talk, I can go on for hours about
Well, that is
why
actually,
we need to kill that bug right away.
yes, I am with you on this one. I feel that, you know, internally there is so many narratives that have been projected upon us. And usually in our younger days, when we've been open, we don't have the cognitive ability of an adult to express, to understand, and to find meaning in a way that we do later on. And it's a learning process. And so we take everything that is happening as real and literal. And we hold on to that as a belief that reflects our self-image and our self-concept. And that inner talk is a part of that. Along with that, there are some perhaps distortion. So these distortions that we have can often cloud what we really want. What is the difference between a dream that might be fantastical and something that is tangibly or has a trajectory over time to create goals throughout the trajectory that require that growth, that require that transformation to be able to bring it into reality. So, it's a very tricky navigation. And this is why, as coaches, it does require a delicate understanding of the human mind, the belief system, the potential distortions that are a part of the client's lived experience. And so it becomes really a very delicate and a very sacred journey or road traveled together. And this is why this is one of the topics that I wanted to cover, because often it's easy to very quickly place labels on these kind of experiences and these kind of concepts. But going a little deeper underneath is of paramount importance, I feel. And it's our responsibility as coaches and being of service to do so.
I agree. And your comment on labels, when we give things label, there's an inherent limiting that occurs when we give things a label. Okay. And this isn't my unique idea. This comes from Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, and I'm sure he might have gotten it from someone more wisdom before him, but he's the one who gets the credit today. But labels limit. I mean, am I a father? Am I just a father? No, I'm a musician. I'm also a son. I'm a confidant. I'm a teacher. I'm any one label, and there's no word that can really, other than just calling me, that can really come to truly define that. So there's an inherent beauty in all of us, and I think learning for us to get comfortable recognizing that we have the seeds of the divine within us, that we were created from the divine to achieve, to grow, to return to the divine, having picked up something new along the way. That's where I am. I believe very strongly that our path, when we get uncomfortable when things aren't going our way, when the seas get tumultuous, it's because we've turned away from our mission and purpose. That when we are aligned with our higher order mission and purpose, it's not that life's always rosy and cupcakes and day glow rainbows, but things get better. Things get better when we are in alignment with that. And what you're talking about is exactly that, leveling up. And what is leveling up other than simply becoming more aware of and in tune with that which we were created to be and do?
I absolutely love what you said. And the idea of leveling up is also the process of letting go of those distortions, that self-doubt, that inner self-talk, and the distortions and projections from others, so that we're able to find the truth inside of us, the divinity inside of us. And the only way to do that is to sit and hermit and to receive support from resources that give us what we need at the times that we need without spoon feeding, because then we're again reliant, and sometimes it's labeled as codependency, on external sources. Whereas doing it in this way, now we're doing it from an internal space, meeting the external space and not seeking from the external space and bringing it inside of us, because it can't be in truth if it's somebody else's truth, if it's a truth that somebody else has found. It might be a spark towards finding that truth, but it is not our truth. And that journey to find our truth requires a lot of those tumultuous waters and facing the fears that are related to that, facing things that perhaps come up that we didn't even know were there because they're embedded in the subconscious mind. And as coaches, it really is the let me walk with you metaphor for me. Let me walk with you so that you know you're not alone in this, and let me shine the light in front of you, not for you, but with you, co-creation. And so, yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
So yeah, that co-creation is so powerful.
it is.
And and I love when I'm able to have those moments with my clients where, sometimes the most powerful moments are the moments where I just kind of sit back. And there was a movie years and years ago, decades ago, Dead Poet Society, where Robin Williams took this shy, kind of unassuming young man and helped him come out of his shell. And he gave him this very, for the child, for this high school student whose worst fear was that he would ever be humiliated because anybody saw who he really was. For this kid to kind of step out of his shell, Robin Williams put him in this situation. And when the child started to go, Robin Williams' character just kind of knelt down on the ground and put his hands up in front of his face and then started rooting for him. And I love those moments. And I try not to be so obvious about it, but there are times where I'm trying very hard to maintain a poker face, and inside my head I'm going, yes, Gary, you're so close. God, you're so close.
I have to agree with
And
you.
again, not that they're so close to getting the answer that I have in my head, but you're so close to getting your answer. You're so close. You're so close to finally dialing your GPS into your destination. And
Yes,
that's the
yes,
beauty of it.
it is. It is. And I'm going to admit some things. I get very excited when they reach that point. Oh boy, do I celebrate, and they know it. And with a mix of grace with it to allow them to have their moment, because it is their moment after all. It's not mine, but it's a shared one where the transformation, and most especially with that inner talk, most especially with those doubts about self, when you have those epiphanies and those realizations, and the old begins to crumble, there's a grieving. But
Mm-hmm.
along with that, there is celebration. And it's the same with the aspirations. Sometimes with clients, we've noted together that the aspirations they had at the start and the dreams that they had in the start, they're not the same as the ones that actually transform and become, because they were coming from a space that wasn't in their truth. And perhaps it was borrowed. Perhaps, the belief was secondhand, it's borrowed. And as they go through the process, they'll come to me and say, Chiara, I think I've changed my mind. Can I update that? And I'm like, yes, that's the whole point. Can I reevaluate that? I want you to. And so in that process, it really is a different way of looking at aspirations and dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
A different way of looking at it where let's be open to know that this is what I want today. But as I grow and evolve and level up, that this might change and you can't see it right now, but when it does, it means that you've opened your perception to go beyond where you were before. And that which seemed unattainable
Mm-hmm.
suddenly becomes something that can be. And that
You
is,
know what?
yeah,
Mm-hmm. What we I think we sometimes fail to realize is, in the process of my leveling up, I first kind of had to dig myself out of a hole. I
oh,
felt,
you're not the only one.
had very, had said some very, habituated behaviors and some nagging self doubt and feelings of worthlessness. So things that I really had to work through. The thing that we sometimes forget though is, as we're striving for a new way of thinking and we're trying to level up and we're trying to do better, to find better ways of operating, those old ways for us were what worked.
Yes.
Now, they didn't work very well all the time. They didn't transport well. They weren't, what worked at home might not have worked at school. So I might have had to have different operating systems, and become something of a chameleon at times in order to fit in. But as we level up and we reach, I think, just a higher level of fundamentally just being more genuine, we stop thinking so much about fitting in, and we just start welcoming in people who we feel we belong with.
And what came to my mind about what you were saying is that fixed mindset. And I think the fixed mindset about your story or somebody else's story or your projected version of somebody else's story or your own can become so fixed, can become so ingrained as a part of the identifying of that self-image and concept. And I say identifying because, as you said, it's not genuine, it's not real. But the identification with that holds so much water and strength based on our need to hold the old in place and the perception that we want to hold in place because we're safe there. And if we regard somebody else as being a certain way, it can feed the concept of ourselves and keep that going. Although in the background, like you said, it's already crumbling, we just don't know it. And we're fighting to hold on to that fixed reality, that fixed mindset and self-concept and other concept, because, we're not living in a vacuum. And it's a barrier to connection, authenticity, and actually seeing past your fixed mindset towards the aspiration, towards the goal, towards that dream, whether it's with somebody else, with yourself, in business, or whatever the case may be. And it holds you steadfast in the old that you can't see anything else. And so now you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And now you feel stuck. Now you don't know where to go. Now those aspirations and dreams are all out the window because they can't possibly be
Right.
in whatever form they are. This has been a very interesting conversation.
It has been, and I always love the fact that we just kind of turn it over to the universe, and it goes where it goes, and it's really kind of marvelous.
It is, and I feel like because of that, it brings an authenticity within us out that shows different perspectives, and in the moment, what we're able to reflect upon. And the sacredness of this connection that we have back and forth in this particular context. And it's a reflection of who we are. It is a reflection of who we are. I wouldn't do it any other way. I love to wing it.
Absolutely, absolutely. If you ever send me a script, I'm gonna be like, "Who is this, and what have they done with Chiara?"
Oh boy. But Michael, I think we've come to the end of our time together, and I want to really thank you for this wonderful conversation again. It's been most delightful to share with you, to learn from you, to share this space with you, and to share this with others who are watching Coffee with the Coaches. So I want to thank you.
Thank you as well. It's always a pleasure.
And until next time, this is Chiara Marrapodi, Coffee with the Coaches. We'll see you soon.
Bye.